So this question wants me to focus on a difference in how the two texts view this particular, I guess it's a book. So I'm just going to read them in order. There's no like how would two respond to one or vice versa, so I don't worry about that. But there's always a difference. That's kind of the whole point of the double text questions, so it doesn't surprise me they're asking about one. Let's take a look at text one. Despite its beautiful prose, The Guns of August, Barbara Tuchman's 1962 analysis of the start of World War I, has certain weaknesses as a work of history. It fails to address events in Eastern Europe just before the outbreak of hostilities, thereby giving the impression that Germany was the war's principal instigator. Had Tuchman consulted secondary works available to her by scholars such as Luigi Albertini, she would not have neglected the influence of events in Eastern Europe on Germany's actions. So, Eastern Europe is important. That's all I get from that. So, Eastern Europe. Okay. Let's look at two. Barbara Tuchman's The Guns of August is an engrossing, if dated, introduction to World War I. Just a pause there. I know that engrossing sounds negative because gross means like disgusting, but if something's engrossing, it's interesting, it's captivating, it's positive. So it's engrossing, that's positive. Dated, though, might be bad because that means it's out of date. It means it's not current. Maybe it should be. But anyway, engrossing, if dated, introduction to World War II. Tuchman's analysis of primary documents is laudable, praiseworthy. But her main thesis that European powers committed themselves to a catastrophic outcome by refusing to deviate from military plans developed prior to the conflict is implausibly reductive. That's all fancy just for saying bad. But notice this one doesn't say anything about Eastern Europe. This is saying something about like they refused to deviate, right? They committed to something. So here's my dumb summary answer to this question. What is the difference? They just have different problems with the book, right? It's good in certain ways, but they just have problems with their analysis. So I don't know. Let's see what the choices say. I don't want to get much smarter than that. Let's keep the dumb summary dumb. Let the choices help us. The author of text one argues that Tuchman should have relied more on the work of other historians. Maybe they did bring up that one guy. While the author of text two implies that Tuchman's most interesting claims result from her original research. Well, text two, I don't think, is about the research really at all. I mean, it says the analysis of primary documents is laudable. I don't think, though, that that's saying that the most interesting claims came from that research. That's just a separate thing. So I'm okay with the first part, but I don't really get this second part, right? They're not ranking the claims. Let's leave it at that. Like, this is a basic trap, a comparison trap. They're not ranking the claims in this book and saying like, oh, this one's better because she researched it herself versus this one she just copied from someone else. They're not getting into ranking those kinds of things. So gone. B, the author of text one believes that the scope of Tuchman's research led her to an incorrect interpretation. The scope meaning what she covered, because she didn't cover Eastern Europe, the scope was wrong, maybe, okay. While the author of text two believes that Tuchman's central argument is overly simplistic, let's see. The main thesis, blah, 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 is reductive. So I don't expect most of you to know what reductive means, but hopefully you can make a little bit of a connection. You shouldn't eliminate it, but you can hopefully make a little bit of a connection that reductive kind of looks like the word reduce. Because if you reduce something, you cut it down, right? So you simplify it. So there's a connection there. I don't know that it's an obvious one. I don't know that I'm still even like obviously thinking that this choice is correct. There might be other things here, but I'm having trouble proving it wrong. I'm also kind of able to prove it right. But notice what it's doing. A very common SAT thing for hard questions is it's talking about what the passages talk about without directly using the same language, right? Notice it doesn't mention Eastern Europe. It doesn't mention the refusing to deviate from their military plans. That stuff isn't in there, but they do kind of reference it in ways that are a little bit more subtle. And that's usually a sign of a good right answer on a hard question. So let's look at C. We're not done. The author of text one asserts that the writing style of Guns of August makes it worthwhile to read despite any perceived deficiency in Tuchman's research, while the author of text two focuses exclusively, very strong, on the weakness of Tuchman's interpretation of events. No. First of all, exclusively means only, and text two also praises it, so they are not exclusively focusing on the weakness of those that interpretation. They're also talking about the praising of the primary documents. So no, this is wrong, and I don't think does text one even talk about the writing style at all. It's beautiful prose, but I don't know. I don't think they're saying that the beautiful prose makes it a worthwhile read. If anything, it says despite its beautiful prose, it has certain weaknesses. It fails to address things, right? It's not saying, yeah, it's bad, but you should read it anyway because it's so beautifully written. So I don't agree with this either. C is gone. D, the author of text one claims that Tuckman would agree that World War I was largely due to events in Eastern Europe. Ooh, this is the trap. I can already tell. All right, let's focus on that. While the author of text two maintains that Tuckman would say that Eastern European leaders were not committed to military plans in the same way that other leaders were. Wow, this is good. It's definitely the most tempting wrong answer, I think. So first of all, let's look at the two pieces I underlined. The part at the beginning, right? So Tuckman would agree that World War I was largely due to events in Eastern Europe. No, because the whole point is that they failed to address the events in Eastern Europe, right? Tuckman left out Eastern Europe. So the idea that it was largely due to that, that's not Tuckman's view at all. So no, that's wrong. But notice how it uses Eastern Europe to lure you in, and yet it completely reverses what the passage is saying about Eastern Europe. It completely reverses it. And so if you fell for this, you got to pay attention. That's a bad trap that you fell for. Then the second part, so this is wrong. Then the second part, I kind of said this earlier, I feel, that text two did not talk about Eastern Europe really at all. It does talk about this military plans thing, so that is also meant to lure you in. But they never said that it's because of the Eastern Europeans' military plans. It's just much more general than that, that generally these countries had plans that they just kind of went through and they shouldn't have. But it doesn't really specify the Eastern European thing at all. I don't think, the second passage doesn't talk about that. So that's clearly an assumption that you might make because you're like, oh, these two passages are next to each other. They're clearly talking about the same thing, but not that specifically. They just give different reasons entirely for saying that this book is bad. So I had a feeling B was going to be right. I know the SAT well enough to know when they're trying to trick me, but also with a trap answer like D, for example. But I also know when they're kind of going out of their way not to lure me into an answer choice, to make me just be like, oh, this doesn't mention any of the things I needed to mention, right? I need a better word for that. But basically, they make a choice very vague on purpose, knowing that you'll just be like, this isn't right. This isn't a good summary of what happened. But we're not looking for a good summary. We're looking for an accurate summary. And B is accurate. You might have been able to write a better summary yourself, but it is not wrong to have what B says there. So it's lacking detail on purpose so that we are less drawn into it. And notice that a lot of these these wrong answers have way more detail because they want us to be lured in. So just keep that in mind. It's not like you can always, pick the vaguest choice or pick the ones or cross out the ones that mention specific things, but it's a good idea to kind of keep that in mind because that is an essential way that the SAT operates.